Brilliant. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate you all coming along to understand more about the digital boot camps. There is a real focus for us to 100% be sharing and showcasing a couple of excellent programs that we offer from a provider perspective. So we've got is an introduction to the webinar, the agenda. So first of all, we're going to talk about what are skills boot camps, the Babington offer in terms of the digital bootcamp, and then we'll focus on the analysing data journey. We'll go into digital leadership in detail and cover the key core component areas. We'll look at learner requirements and what's needed to be able to be eligible for the programme, cost and funding from a learner and an employer perspective, bespoke employer requirements, and then next steps. And we'll follow up with a Q&A. So expect this session to last around half an hour in total. So what are skills bootcamps from the DFE? Well, they're part of the government's lifetime skills guarantee and plan for jobs, and they're funded by the Department for Education. There's typically a £70 billion programme that's out there at the moment to help fund and develop these critical skills that are absolutely needed. And the flexible courses are up to 16 weeks, and they're there to build sector-specific skills. In our case, that's in leadership and in data skills. Their aim is to support the economic recovery by digitally upskilling people, and also to support the COVID recovery. So as you've probably found and seen, we need more digital skills as we re-emerge back into the workplace to be more effective in terms of those core component skills. There's 27 providers awarded, 18 national providers and 9 regional, and we're one of the national providers, but we also operate on a regional contract in the D2N2 region. And every provider has a different topic and subject. So ours are, to say, the data and the digital leadership, but there's a number of other key component elements that make that up in terms of the other program areas as well. So in terms of our offer from a Babington perspective, we've got 2 core component programs. You've got your analysing digital skills data from the Digital Skills Bootcamp, and then you've got your digital leadership. And both programs have a very similar format. So we're going to talk about the data first of all. It's a 12-week program consisting of a mix of workshops, e-learning, coaching on a one-to-one basis with subject matter experts, workplace projects, a contribution compass session, which is a personal profiler in terms of your leadership style and skill, and then a commitment of around 10 to 12 hours per week of time on the program, whether you're employed or unemployed. And that data analytics program, as you'll see, runs from weeks 1 to 12 covering a number of core key components. First of all, you do your contribution compass, which helps you understand you as an individual, looks at the project introduction to start, which will run throughout the program, and the overall program overview. Then we look at what a data analyst does, what the type of job role is, and starting with Excel as a baseline, developing higher skills into data analytics in everyday life, so collection of data, preparation, importance, using Microsoft tools for data, whether that be to group, to find that data, to bring that together, and focus on Excel. High level look at the data analytical tools that are available out there within the marketplace. Looking then at how to use data to tell a story, and then interpret that and then visualize. Focusing then on communicating with big data in small messages. So how do you break down that larger overall piece, and how do you then focus on delivering that information in an understandable and bite-sized format, following on to presentation and project skills, and finish with a simulation where you go into a safe environment to demonstrate your capabilities to, in essence, be accredited. The program does also include 2 youth certified qualifications that are based around Microsoft Excel as well. We'll move on to the leadership program now, which is the mainstay of today. And this is a really, really impactful program. So we've got a couple of core focuses within this. First of all, it's there to empower your employees to be digital leaders. The focus is to think about how you develop your leadership styles in a digital environment. It's very much a leadership course for people who are communicating in different formats and different mediums. So if you think about immersive technologies, if you think about the use of Teams as an example where we're on today, and delivering messages through Teams to a team member, in a very different format to face-to-face ultimately, and trying to understand how that person might be taking that message, how they might be interpreting it. To sustain business growth, which is really, really key in terms of the programme, by upskilling managers is absolutely a focus point, and it really helps within that job retention. And this is a great programme for somebody who's an aspiring manager of the future as well. So it's not necessarily that you need to be in a line management role right now. It's about developing your managers for tomorrow as well. And therefore, giving that leadership capability a real focus in a digital and remote working environment, as we've summarised. And then it's also to help teach managers how to confidently lead teams and work within the digital environment. And you'll see there's a number of course scheduled start dates that we've got running right through September into November and into January. And we'll talk about the expression of interest process shortly as well. So who's the programme suitable for? First of all, it's first line managers or team leaders who are working with remote teams. It's also for leaders who are serving their people through and customers through virtual environments. It's managers who are looking to understand their digital capabilities, organisations that are looking at significant changes due to the impact of COVID-19 and looking for a skilled workforce that can adopt that. And then finally, organisations that are needing to enhance their workforce in order to stay relevant in an ever-changing and digital marketplace. I think also included within that is those individuals who are ready to take the step into leadership and management, but aren't necessarily going to get access to have the teams straight away, and therefore might need to do some project work in order to be able to put those skills into practice. There's some significant employer benefits. So you're working, so focusing on a CMI element as well, which we'll come to in a second, is to develop the workforce to be business ready, to operate more efficiently. From our perspective, we can either help you recruit staff for an organisation, or help if you're seeking work by helping you through this programme and either helping to arrange an interview for you or helping suitable organisations find candidates. So there's two approaches. There's flexibility within the programme to enable it to be contextualised around the organisation, to instill company values and processes, so our mentors are able to do a level of contextualisation and personalisation. There's also a key element of this being a CSR initiative internally. So from an organisational perspective, there's a significant opportunity to invest in developing those future skills. And then also it's a really good way of reskilling potential redundancy candidates. So if you're looking at, as we call it, offboarding now, or taking people out of the organisation and giving them the best start in finding another opportunity, there's a real follow through in that in absolutely the right way. So there is a certificate within the programme, and they'll achieve a level 3 equivalent certificate endorsed by the CMI, and that is basically an accreditation of the skills that they've learned during the programme. CMI is a Chartered Management Institute. They've got a really great track record of supporting programmes like this, and with it having that accreditation and that kudos, it showcases the level of quality within the programme. So let's look at the learner journey first of all. So the learner journey itself spans over 12 weeks, and there's a number of key elements that will happen, including on day one being given access to the CMI portal. There's embedding of the contribution compass, so understanding emotional intelligence, signs of stress when working remotely and using teams, focusing then on leading diverse teams remotely. So when I think about all of those different elements that will come together, you might have a child pop up on Teams as an example. We might be visited by our pets, partners, and that's something that now is part of working life. We get a really great insight into other people's home situations in terms of things that happen and change during the working day. Week 4, we look at remote performance management. So how do we get the best out of our people in a remote and digitized format, looking at internal and external performance factors that might have an impact. Week 5, we look at digital capability. So what's the digital skills gap here? What's the knowledge of technology? What's our digital evolution and footprint? We look at social media and social platforms. And then where needed, we do a CV review and rewrite. Week 6, we look at skills for e-commerce, so digital marketing skills, digital creativity, again, revisiting digital footprint and running a successful meeting remotely. So the planning, the preparation, and delivery of that. Week 7 focuses on the management and leadership dynamics. So first of all, it's the project management element and focused on project management fundamentals, project stakeholders and risk, and then the overall planning and preparation that goes into that project work. Week 8 takes us on to communication and remote presentation skills. So we're looking at the methods of communicating remotely, the power of words and presentation skills. Week 9 focuses on a project, which is towards the award of the programme. So this is looking at an improvement proposal within business and applying leadership and management skills to that. So writing that proposal, being prepared to present that proposal back in terms of a business change or process change. Week 10 is around consolidation and support. So looking at the project scoping, help and guidance piece. And then the week 11 is the presentation of the proposed project. Now, the project doesn't have to necessarily, so if you're seeking employment, it'd be around an idea or a methodology to present back on. If you're in employment, then we'll work with your employer to try and look at business orientated projects that are going to offer the best value. And as we go into week 12, we'll give meaningful feedback, certification, and we'll look at destination next. What can be next for you in terms of your learning and development journey, or equally, what the next plan in your career progression is in terms of those next steps forward, and how potentially we can support, or we can support your employer with that. So there are a few learner requirements, and we've broken this down into 4 key areas. First of all, there's unemployed learners, so people who want support to find a new role, and they'll undertake the programme to make them more employable and to find new career opportunities. There's learners that are employer sponsored, so employers can pay to sponsor you through this programme and encourage your growth and participation through the closed cohorts. You've got somebody who is employed but wants to do this off your own back ultimately, so you want to train and develop, not necessarily through your employer, to enhance your future skills. You may be looking at a potential career change, you may be looking at a progression within role and want to have some additional CPD to support that. And then there's also, as we call it, the onboarding piece, in terms of focusing on getting you ready for that working piece and moving forward in terms of a career element as well. So there's a few eligibility criteria elements for this as well. So it's available to anyone over the age of 19, regardless of an employment status. So you can be employed, self-employed, unemployed, and it's not now within the last 12 months. It's absolutely available for you in terms of a wider breach. And then there's also for people who are changing in career, returning from potential furlough as an example, or looking to be redeployed. The key 4 things that we need to employ, as a provider, ensure is you have the right to work in the UK. Individuals have the capability to complete the programme and have access to the right technology. You have the time, capability and commitment to undertake the learning. And then also you have the opportunity to progress into a new role or gain significant new skills to implement on the jobs. This is all about progression and next step development within the programme. There are associated costs, so we're going to break down the cost and the type of funding. It's a really positive piece that 70% of the funding is being met by the Department for Education, or 100% dependent on the status. So if you're being sponsored by your employer, and this is about employee development as a CPD, it's £750 plus VAT per learner. For anyone who is unemployed or is a self-study learner who's looking for a new opportunity outside of their existing organisation, then the programme is fully funded. It's open to employers of all sizes. Learners can progress onto an apprenticeship or completed an apprenticeship or other learning. Unemployed learners will receive a guaranteed interview as part of this. So the focus would be that we would look to seek and find employment and work in partnership with you. For employed learners paying the contribution, the employer's got to demonstrate ultimately that there's new skills from the programme created and how they can be applied. So as a working example, let's say that we're on the leadership program because we want to be a team leader of the future, then in that case, an employer might turn around and say, right, well, I'd like to give you buddy responsibility to performance manage these 2 individuals against these KPIs, and that would be sufficient evidence to showcase that you've taken those new skills that the program's created and you're putting them into practice to help you develop your future career opportunity. Providers get paid in different chunks, and it's worth saying. So we get a part of the funding based upon an initial part of the program, but actually a lot of it is predicated on us being able to find either career development or an interview outturn. So there's a real vested interest from us as a partner in that delivery, which is absolutely key. The program funding is roughly worth £2,450, so it's really quite a good value in terms of the employer contribution. Significantly, that's 70% made up from a government perspective. The key criteria for that being fully funded is that you're either unemployed at the start of the program or that there is an employment status there without core sponsorship. So you're looking to apply for a new role externally normally with a different organisation. It could be fully funded if you're it could be fully funded and employed, if that makes sense, if you're committed to gaining a new job and your current employer is unaware. So you might be in a job search and you might be able to negotiate time out to do that. So there's a multitude of ways of approaching it as well. Where the employer needs to pay the 30% contribution, it's for anyone who's employed in the organisation and will remain so for the duration of the programme and the following 6 months to the best of their knowledge. That the employer has requested potentially a closed contextualised cohort, or the employer can only commit to supporting skills to enhance their roles, but cannot guarantee that there'll be progress within there as well. So there's a couple of different elements. So there is the ability, as we said, to bespoke employer requirements. And the reason we put this in is because there are some employers out there who want something that's really contextualised to their organisation. What they want to do is look at the value back on that employer contribution. So in that sense, there'll be elements of contextualisation through our mentors and one-to-one basis of thinking about when you take a decision or you go through a process, how does that reflect in your business and what are your particular business challenges? The concept is that the closed cohorts and the employer cohorts will be employer focused cohorts will be contextualized to really add that difference in terms of value. And if there's further considerations in terms of contextualization, then we can agree a typical case by case, basically, a contextualization that may incur an additional cost dependent on the organization's need. So from the enrolment process, which is how we onboard learners to program, there's an application form which can be found through our website or through your Babington contact that asks a number of key questions. It will focus on your eligibility criteria and ask you a couple of key component questions like, hey, can you commit to the time in order to do the program? Yes or no in terms of whether your employer is aware, are you on any of the programs of learning and development at the moment, just so that we can really wrap around that in the right way and make sure you're being given absolutely the right information. Once the application has been seen, we'll go through an application process to make sure we can accept it. We'll add you into the learner systems and move that forward. If you're not eligible, we'll look at why and look at either what changes or solutions or alternatives are out there. There's very few and far between that you wouldn't be eligible. And if there is an employer contribution, then as part of that, we'll obtain a purchase order from your employer in order to move that program start place forward. So that's the core information. What we're going to do now is throw it over to, or open to even, a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, if you want to, within the chat, feel free to ask those questions and we can happily get those answered for you. Or feel free to shout out those questions if you would prefer.
Hi, Matt, it's Ricardo.
Hi, Ricardo.
Hi, everybody. Did I hear that right? So the 12-month rule for unemployed is squashed now, or we're still looking at that?
Yeah, so anyone that is in the basis of being unemployed now, from that, they've removed the 12-month rule. They felt it was a disadvantage to someone who'd recently been made redundant, as an example.
Thank you. Cheers, buddy.
No worries.